Welcome to another episode of EQ and You. I'm joined by my partner in crime, Steve Friedlein. And we thought we would spend a little bit of time and do a mini series of sorts on communication style, what it is, how to use it to your advantage, and how it weaves into emotional intelligence, both as an individual and or a leader. So why don't we just start by setting it up?
Yeah, I think, Jen, so oftentimes when we talk about skills that we need to develop, so many of them are process skills. How do I accomplish certain tasks? Am I an effective project manager? And sometimes I think relationships kind of take a back seat to that. But as I think about some of the challenges that I've faced along the way in working with other people, it isn't just the project or the task that I struggle with. It's how to connect effectively with people that don't see things the same way I do.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's almost like the efficiency component to me, because I've been in those loops where I just don't seem to connect with people, or what I say doesn't seem to come across the way I want it to. And so we end up in a lot of various conversations over and over again and not getting to what we need to get done.
Yeah. And
So
another fallacy about this, Jen, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
no,
I
go
think
ahead.
it's important for us to think about the fact that we have a tendency to want to spend time with people who are like us, people that
Mm-hmm.
think like us. And I
Mm-hmm.
think one of the important things about style and communication is the more I can have diversity around me, the greater potential that I'm going to have a broader perspective when I make decisions.
Absolutely. I agree. I think the more diversity on the team, the better. There are four dominant communication styles, and the research on this has gone back actually all the way to the Greeks. If you look on Wikipedia, you'll see an entry on Greeks and identifying four social styles. And Steve and I have been working in this topic. Gosh, we both got certified in social style tool too long ago,
A
more than
long
I want to
time ago.
admit.
Let's
Yes.
just leave it at that.
Yeah,
Yes.
decades. We'll put it at decades. And so it has been a very practical way to identify how people communicate and prefer to communicate. So you can, one, recognize your own style, but then two, observe others and figure out their style, so that, like I said, you can kind of sync up and make sure that you're effectively and efficiently communicating as much as possible.
Yes, I can honestly say, Jen, I utilize the concept of behavioral style every single day, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
conscious or unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
You know, making observations about what people say, what do they focus on when they share information, and how
Mm-hmm.
do they share that information?
Mm-hmm.
It's a universal benefit in terms of becoming a more effective leader.
Yeah, so let's talk about the framework of it first, and then we'll talk a little bit about how it's different or the same of EQ. So
Yes.
the way that this works is you basically take behavior. It's very superficial. It's only what people say and what they do. And you break it down into two scales. The first scale is how indirect or direct are they? It's a continuum. So someone might fall very far on the indirect side, which means they're a little more reserved. They don't speak up unless maybe they're asked to. They might be quiet and very good listeners. They might ask more questions than make statements. And then gradually you work your way over to the direct side. And those that are on the very direct side are the ones who speak up quickly, who might make a statement or share an opinion quickly, who tend to kind of just say what they're thinking without a lot of hesitation or softness. And so you can fall anywhere on that scale, very indirect to very direct. And that is one measure of social style or communication style.
Right. And the second measure, which is completely statistically independent of the scale that you just described, is the distinction between being reserved and being animated. And these are both verbal and nonverbal communication aspects.
Mm-hmm.
People who are reserved tend to not use their hands very much. You oftentimes find that you need to ask a lot more questions because they may not necessarily readily share with you. People who are animated have a tendency to talk with their hands. They're going to get very excited and enthusiastic about what's going on around them. You don't often have to wonder what's on their mind because they're more than likely going to share it with you.
Or you can read it on their face.
Exactly. Yes. Again, I think the most important thing here is that these two scales are statistically independent of one another.
Yeah, so you could fall anywhere on either one, and depending on where you are, that's how you kind of plot into your social style or communication style. So If you are on the indirect side, but reserved, that makes you analytical. If you are on the indirect side, but animated, that makes you an amiable style. If you're on the reserved side, but direct, that makes you a driving style. And if you're on the animated side, but also direct, that makes you an expressive style.
Nicely done. I have to say, Jen, that I'm looking forward now to moving forward and describing each of these 4 styles in much more depth as we go about our second in this series.
Yes, so we'll take a show, if you will, and break down each of these 4 and describe a little bit about it, what some of their needs are, and how to identify it in yourself or others.
Sounds great.
Stay tuned. We'll see you then.